Hola guys, how's everyone doing? This is Hala Pablo. Thanks for tuning in. Let's look at Bitcoin. So this is pretty much a continuation from the video I did yesterday. In this video, I want to focus on the VWAP. Now, I still have the fractal ranges here. I have this one, although yesterday's video I had the top chart on a 2-day. This is on the daily, and then this bottom chart here I have on the 1 hour. I believe I had yesterday's chart on the micro chart on the 4 hour. Anyway, so that is the only difference with these charts to distinguish it from the video from yesterday. And I want to focus today on the VWAP. What is the VWAP? Well, the VWAP, for those of you who don't know, stands for volume weighted average price. And it basically measures the average price of Bitcoin weighted by volume. So if the price action is, as you see here up on this daily chart, where we sit right now at 54.6, if that price, if the actual price is beneath the VWAP line, which here you can see I anchored the VWAP to the buying climax. Now this is a top. This was the absolute, I think this is the all-time high of Bitcoin, like 70, let's just say 74,000, 73.7. So, and this occurred back in March, right? So since then, since I anchored it to the top, to the buying climax, the VWAP line, the anchored VWAP line, has been measuring the price of Bitcoin according to volume, according to its volume. And it's come up with this average. Now, like I talked about yesterday, the anchored VWAP, whether you anchor to the buying climax or if it was a distribution range after a sell-off, we would anchor it to the selling climax. And it serves as a good range midpoint because, again, it's the average, right? Between support and resistance, the horizontal support and resistance lines, or the as I call them, TRR, trading range resistance, and TRS, trading range support. And so we see here it's come down. It's been a few months now since March. It's now September, and on the daily, at least, we see that the anchored VWAP line has served kind of like it's kind of run almost parallel for a while with the 0.5 Fibonacci, which is the actual trading range midpoint drawn through the Fibonacci percentages or the Fibonacci ratios. So that's actually the midpoint, but you see a lot of it coincides and with the anchored VWAP. And just recently, the anchored VWAP has gone beneath the 0.5 Fibonacci on the macro. So what does this mean? This means that Bitcoin is the value of Bitcoin, since the price action is way beneath the actual VWAP line. The VWAP line, the anchored VWAP line, is this pale blue line here. You see we've fallen way beneath it. And so that actually means that the value of Bitcoin is, according to volume, is actually falling below average. And so it's a pretty strong indicator of where the trend may be heading. And that's why the VWAP is a powerful tool. It's used by institutional traders a lot, and professional interests to kind of gauge trend in kind of like a subtle way. It's kind of like a moving average, I guess, and you use it in conjunction with other moving averages like the exponential like the EMA 200 or whatever. You increase its efficacy even more. But today I want to focus on the anchored VWAP that we see. Now I like to use the anchored VWAP as sort of like as an ice barrier or a creek barrier. Those of you who know Wyckoff should be familiar with the ice and creek features of a Wyckoff schematic. in the trading range. It's basically a support or resistance line drawn loosely around the highs and the lows of the price action within a given trading range. Well, I like to use the anchored VWAP kind of in that for that purpose, to determine to help me determine the bias of the latter half of the trading range, because I want to know whether or not this is going to be a reaccumulation range. So in other words, if the end result of this correction or this consolidation here is going to be another leg up, or if this is going to be a proper distribution. In other words, if this is a top and we're going to have a sell-off or a markdown at the end of this range. The VWAP, the anchored VWAP, can help us, can give us, can kind of clue us in more. It's just more evidence as we make our case, as we consolidate towards the latter half of this range. So we're seeing here. So in this case, the VWAP would serve kind of like an ice barrier, and so to kind of show you what I mean by that, I'm going to try to break this down so new traders can understand these concepts, because if you can grasp these concepts, it's really going to help you out for your technical analysis prowess as far as determining bias. It's all about determining the bias of ranges, so you know to get in, to take position or whatnot. So try to grasp these concepts through recognizing price action and trading patterns, pattern recognition along with volume. And another reason I like VWAP is because it deals with volume. Remember, I'm a big proponent of volume. I'm always saying volume is the truth serum. Volume and price action together is really all you need to make an awful lot of money in the markets. And it'll also keep you safe if you just understand these volume spread analysis concepts. So anyway, so here on the micro, on the 1 hour, you see this is the buying climax. See, this is the same chart as this. This is just spread out. This is the hour, whereas this is the daily. So each daily candle is 24 of these candles. So this is the daily and this is the hourly. So here we see the buying climax. It's all the same, and I drew the trading range resistance, horizontal line here. And here is the anchored VWAP on the hourly, which I anchored to the buying climax, just like I did up here. And if we can kind of think of the trading range resistance line at the buying climax, it's kind of like the safety. Like, kind of think of this as like dry land. Like, if Bitcoin is going to keep on increasing in value and showing a bullish bias, it needs to stay and hug this safety line here as much as possible, or at least keep making attempts that get nearer and nearer to it, and attempts that are hugging it more and more, and trying to stay above the anchored VWAP line. So we kind of, if we look at this as like a creek or a river that's like iced over, and we've fallen through it here, and that's okay, because that's the automatic rally. Every new trading range has a pullback after it makes a high, after it has like a macro buying climax. It comes back down and establishes an automatic rally, but then it should come back up and create the secondary test. And so sometimes it doesn't come all the way back up to mitigate the buying climax. Sometimes it only comes up to the 0.5 Fibonacci and then retraces back down again. And so that's how later on we determine these three junctures, as far as like the 0.5 Fib, which often goes along with the anchored VWAP once we anchor it to either the selling or the buying climaxes. So, but here we see we've fallen through, and I want to kind of show you and annotate this to kind of let you know why I have a bearish overall bias on Bitcoin according to this sort of technical analysis. So here we've fallen through the VWAP here, and think of like the price action of Bitcoin as like a person that's fallen through. I know it's kind of gruesome, but think of it as someone who's fallen through an icy river, and they're trying to get back up above the ice and get back to land. Remember, this TRR is like dry land. It's safety. So here we've come back up here. the VWAP, and it's making its way. It's kind of like walking a little bit on the ice. It falls back down through the ice, comes back up again, makes another attempt. It's desperately reaching to reclaim this trading range resistance and perhaps flip it to support. If it flips it to support, if it's able to establish itself and flip it to support, then we'll see we'll have a bullish bias then on Bitcoin, and as long as the volume coincides with the rallying, as long as there's demand that coincides. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing it come up temporarily above the ice and then falling back down. Here it's able to stay afloat a little bit more. But then here again, we've fallen back down through it. And now we're underneath the 200 EMA. Now that's this line here, where before we kind of stayed on top of it here and here. But now even the 200 EMA has fallen underneath the anchored VWAP and the price action as well. So that's really no bueno. Let's see if it makes another attempt at the ice here. But now it's not able to come through. It comes down again underneath the river. And this was back in April, and it wasn't until May, about a month later, was able to come back up above the ice, make another stab at TRR for safety, trying to cling on for dear life, and it almost makes it, but not quite. It comes back down, and as it comes back down, now it's under the 200 EMA, and it's a straight on nosedive through the ice. Comes back down through the ice again and again and again. These next months leading up to where we are now, we have this final fall through the ice, also underneath the 200 EMA. And now we're seeing these, as death throes right here, these big bullish demand spikes, trying to get back up desperately. Now it's not even getting close. It's only able to come up above the 200 EMA, but still well below the surface of the ice. And then here, this big rejection here. And here there's not even any demand volume. It's just, you could see that it's giving up. It's just giving up the fight, and it's coming back down. And now we're seeing predominance of supply after this last capitulation. We're seeing predominance of supply. We didn't see that before. We saw more demand as it was trying to get its head up above the 200 EMA. But this last one I think was kind of conclusive, and now we're going back down. And here, this is. Yeah, we're seeing no demand on the daily. And so that leads me to believe that we're going to come back down and mitigate this sign of weakness. That would be this area here on the daily, this weakness that we had, this sell-off that went all the way down to 50,000 back on the 5th of August. I think we're going to come back down and mitigate this, and we're going to go below this macro trend support line. If we come back below this macro trend support line and re-mitigate this, I think that there's going to be a lot of FUD. There's a lot of fear at this point in Bitcoin, and it's going to be closer to the elections. And I just think there's going to be a lot of speculation, dubious speculation at that, and it's going to bring it down to, since we're already down in this area, I think we're going to be pulled down to this PSY area, and this is the 40,000 spot that I was telling you about yesterday, that usually, historically, these macro bear sell-offs, these bleed outs from the top here usually come down to mitigate the former PSY on the bull cycle, which forms the top of the Christmas trees that we see, these Christmas tree patterns, especially. So like if we're below the VWAP, the anchored VWAP, we're also below the 200 EMA, and you see that right now this is turning, the VWAP is turning, not the VWAP, but the 200 exponential moving average right here is now, it's not able to prevail through it, and this is staying red now. I don't know if you could see this here. It's staying red on the daily after an attempt and a rejection, a failure to rally above the anchored VWAP. Now it's just basically sinking down. It's kind of given up. I don't know if it's going to make any more attempts at the surface of the ice to kind of get through the ice, or I think it's just going to resign to its fate at this point, and the market makers are going to start taking profit from all of this rallying that took place last year that is still unanswered for. So I think up here they're going to do a liquidity grab, come back down and start remitigating these old reaccumulation zones, which in this case they'll kind of turn it into, I guess, redistribution zones. And then from here, it just depends on if we go lower. One thing before I sign off that something to look at, something to consider, is that some Elliott wave schematics are calling this area here, this buying climax area, as a 4. So this would be a small 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if this is a 4, then a 5 wave is due. And it could either be an expanded 5 or a truncated 5. If it's a truncated 5, it could make a stab back up at a little bit above TRR. Remember the safety line here? If it hits the safety line, just because it makes it to the safety line, that could be a trap. That could be a bull. That could be a bull trap, as we sometimes see, which constitutes these spikes that come right at the end before the macro sell-offs. These are called UTADs, up thrusts after distributions. If that happens, then that would be a bull trap, and that would be a liquidity grab at that point, and right before the market makers sell off, institutional interest sell off, and because they already have their limits in place, their sell orders. Up here, there'd be a big bear order block, supply order block, and it'll just mow down all the retail that bought at TRR, and then the floor falls out, and that's when we fall, and that's when we see the macro ABC corrections on these markdowns. So that's if we have a 5 wave. That's if this is a 4 on the Elliott, and then we have a 5 wave. That's if it's truncated. If it's a regular 5 wave or an expanded 5 wave, then we could go up to 70. We could remitigate the highs, 75,000, go maybe a little bit above it. If the market makers can sell it, they're going to pump it as high as they can, right? Because you buy low, you sell high. So if the weekend investors, retail, aka retail, are willing to buy Bitcoin at 75 grand plus, then hey, it's all the more better, right? So they're going to sell it as far as they can go until the bear order blocks kick in, and then the floor falls out, and that might be right around the election time. So like I shared yesterday, I think if Trump wins the election, I think we have much more of a bullish outcome, or a bullish projection or prognosis for Bitcoin. If the Democrats win, I think it's bearish. I think that's just going to be the catalyst to go down and for sure remitigate the PSYs. Now we might even do this before, depending on the 5 wave, to come down. I think the PSY is going to get mitigated regardless. I think we're going to see 40,000, 39,000. It's just a question, do we go lower from there? And I think if the Democrats take the election, then yeah, I think we're going down perhaps into the 20s, mid-20s. So all this means is keep your fiat on hand, and watch the price action in the next few weeks of Bitcoin. If it comes back up to make another stab at the anchored VWAP, which is currently now at 63,000. So it's we got to hit that's almost 10 grand underwater. So yeah, and we're not seeing demand. We're not seeing demand come in volume right now. And there's a lot of fear. We're seeing predominance of supply so far in this trading range, especially in the latter half of this trading range. I mean, look at all this supply building, guys. So supply is building while the price is falling. That's divergence, but it's bear strength. You want supply to build. Bears want the supply to build as the price falls. Now, if supply is building while demand, while it's pumping, then that would be a weakness for the bulls then. Right, and that means it's probably going to top out here, but we're not even seeing that. We're seeing we're seeing increased supply with diminishing price action, and we're seeing the waves expanding as well in this in this channel up on the daily. So remember we talked about that. Increased spread usually means a top, whereas absorption, usually the waves are getting smaller and smaller because more and more supply is getting absorbed at levels that are keeping a floor or staying relatively close to the VWAP line. We're not seeing that. We're seeing expansion of spread going further and further from the volume weighted average price. So that's no bueno. All that's no bueno. But this is Bitcoin. Anything can happen. So I'm watching it. You should watch it. If I see anything, I'll let you all know. Check out our trading group on Discord. I keep it extremely affordable, and I try to keep you guys informed. My members in that group, I try to keep them informed first, and then if I have time, I'll upload videos like this to YouTube. But if you'd like to take your trading up another notch and learn some of these volume price action trades, trading, investing theories, and all that, then yeah, check us out. Like, subscription, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching this all the way through, some of you, and happy trading, and we'll talk again soon. All right, guys, none of this is financial advice. We'll see you later. Have a good day. God bless. Bye.